My life used to feel like a perfect postcard. Every morning, I do wake up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee. My husband Mark would kiss me goodbye before heading to work. And our two golden retrievers would wag their tails, eager for their morning walk. We lived in a cozy suburban house with a white picket fence. The kind of place you see in movies about happy families. I worked as a graphic designer from home, which allowed me to spend plenty of time with our kids, Lily and Max. On weekends, we'd go to the park, bake cookies together, or watch movies under a blanket. But deep down, something felt off. It wasn't a specific event or argument, it just a nagging feeling that packed my husband's lunch. I noticed his phone lighting up with a message. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up, and the first line I saw made my heart stop. "Can't wait to see you again, my love." I shouldn't have read that message. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The words "my love" echoed in my head like a broken record. Who was he texting? And why did it feel so personal? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a work colleague, or a joke between friends. But the tone was too intimate. That evening, I watched Mark more closely than usual. He seemed distracted, his fingers tapping nervously on the table during dinner. When I asked if everything was okay, he smiled and said, "Just a lot on my mind at work." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the doubt had already taken root. The next day, I found an excuse to check his phone again. This time, I scrolled further. There were dozens of messages, late-night texts, emojis, promises to meet. One stood out. 7 years and no one suspects a thing. 7 years? That meant this had been going on since before our kids were born. My hands started shaking. How could I have been so blind? I couldn't confront Mark yet. Not until I knew the full truth. So I became a detective in my own home. I started noting his habits, when he left for work, when he returned, how often he checked his phone. I even began following him, pretending to run errands nearby. It felt dirty, but I had to know. One afternoon, I saw him pull into a small cafe I'd never noticed before. He went inside and sat at a corner table. Through the window, I could see someone joining him, a woman with long brown hair. They laughed, leaned in close, and for a moment, they looked like any happy couple. Except that couple was supposed to be us. I took a photo from a distance, my hands trembling. When I zoomed in, I recognized her. She was a real estate agent who had shown us a house a few years ago. The pieces were starting to fit together. But I still didn't understand one thing. Why? What had I done to deserve this? I couldn't keep it inside anymore. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat Mark down and showed him the photo. His face went pale. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "I'm sorry." "Sorry?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "You've been lying to me for 7 years, and all you can say is sorry." He tried to explain. "It started as a fling," he said. He never meant for it to go on so long. He swore he still loved me, that I was his priority. But every word felt like another knife. How could he claim to love me while building a secret life behind my back? I asked him to leave. Not further, I needed time to think. He packed a bag and walked out the door. As I watched his car drive away, I felt a strange mix of relief and terror. Relief that the truth was out. Terror because I had no idea what came next. The days after Mark left were a blur. I cried, I raged, I replayed every moment of our marriage, searching for signs I'd missed. I told my best friend, Sarah, and she moved in temporarily to help with the kids. She didn't judge me, she just held me when I fell apart. Meanwhile, Mark kept calling. At first, I ignored him. But one night, I answered. His voice was shaky. "I messed up," he said. "But I want to fix this. I want us back." I didn't know if I could trust him. Could we ever go back to normal? Or would every smile, every touch be shadowed by doubt? Then, something unexpected happened. The other woman, her name was Claire, reached out to me. She sent an email confessing that she had known Mark was married. She'd believed his lies, just like I had. And now she felt guilty. Claire's email changed everything. She wasn't the villain I'd imagined. She was just another person caught in Mark's web of lies. She'd thought he was divorced, that their relationship was honest. When she found out the truth, she ended things immediately. We met in person cautiously at a neutral cafe. She looked just as exhausted as I felt. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "I thought he was a good man." I believed her. And in that moment, I realized something important. My anger wasn't just about Mark. It was about the loss of my illusion. I'd built a life on trust, and now the foundation was gone. But Claire's honesty gave me clarity. If she could admit her mistakes, maybe I could too. Maybe I could stop blaming myself for not seeing the signs. Maybe I could start healing. With Claire out of the picture, Mark begged for another chance. He promised therapy, transparency, a fresh start. He even suggested a separation period to prove he could change. I wasn't sure. Could I ever look at him the same way? Would I always wonder if he was hiding something? But then I thought about our kids. They deserve parents who tried to work things out, not a broken home. So I agreed to try. But on one condition: complete honesty. No more secrets. He had to earn my trust back, step by step. It wasn't easy. Some days I'd catch myself staring at his phone, fighting the urge to snoop. Other days I'd remember the cough, the texts, and my chest would tighten. But slowly we began to rebuild. Therapy wasn't what I expected. I thought it would be about blaming Mark, about making him admit every wrong he'd done. But our therapist, Ellis, focused on something else. Why? She asked us to dig deeper than the affair. What was missing in your relationship before this happened? She'd say. At first, Mark and I just stared at each other, unsure how to answer. But slowly, the truth emerged. I realized I'd become so focused on being the perfect wife and mother that I'd stopped expressing my own needs. I'd suppressed my frustrations, my dreams, my fears, all to keep the peace. Mark, in turn, felt invisible. He admitted he'd started the affair because he craved attention, a sense that someone truly saw him. It was painful to hear, but it was also revealing. Our marriage had failed because of one person's mistake. It had eroded over time, piece by piece. As we stopped communicating, Ellis gave us exercises, daily check-ins, vulnerability prompts, even date nights where we had to talk about something other than logistics. It felt awkward at first, like learning a new language. But gradually, we began to reconnect. Rebuilding trust wasn't a linear process. Some days, I'd wake up feeling hopeful, ready to give Mark another chance. Other days, a single text notification would send my heart racing, wondering if he was hiding something again. Mark made an effort to be transparent. He gave me access to his phone, shared his calendar, and even introduced me to his colleagues so I could see who he spent time with. It wasn't about surveillance, it was about proving he was serious about change. But trust wasn't just about his actions. It was about my ability to let go of the past. I had to learn to differentiate between real red flags and my own anxiety. Ellis called it real-landing safety. One evening, Mark surprised me with a handwritten letter. It wasn't an apology, it was a promise. He listed the ways he'd failed me, but also the ways he planned to show up differently. He wrote about our kids, our future, and the love he still felt. I cried as I read it, not out of sadness, but out of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild something better than what we'd lost. As our marriage began to heal, I realized something important. I needed to heal myself too. For years, I'd defined my worth by how well I managed our home, how happy our kids were, how smoothly our life ran. But who was I outside of those roles? I started small. I reconnected with old friends, took up painting again, and even joined a book club. At first, Mark was hesitant. He worried I was pulling away. But I explained that this wasn't about distancing myself, it was about becoming a whole person again. To my surprise, Mark began his own journey. He started going to the gym, picked up guitar lessons, and even volunteered at a local shelter. We weren't just fixing our marriage, we were rediscovering who we were as individuals. One night, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Mark turned to me and said, "I think we're becoming better people because of this. Not just because we're trying to fix what's broken, but because we're finally being honest about what we need." It was the first time I truly believed we might not just survive this, we might thrive. Just when I thought we were making real progress, a new challenge appeared. Mark's old co-worker, Jessica, reached out to him for advice on a project. She'd been the one who had initially introduced him to Claire, and the memory still stung. At first, I tried to brush it off. But as their work conversations grew more frequent, my anxiety returned. I found myself checking his messages again, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. This time, though, I handled it differently. Instead of confronting him with anger, I scheduled a therapy session and brought my fears to light. Drive.Ellis helped me articulate why this felt triggering. It wasn't just about Jessica. It was about the fear of being betrayed again. Mark listened without defensiveness. He acknowledged my pain and proposed a solution. He'd keep me in the loop on their communications and set clear boundaries with Jessica. More importantly, he reassured me that our progress wasn't fragile, it was real. That night, as we lay in bed, I realized something. I wasn't the same person I'd been 7 months ago. I'd learned to voice my fears instead of swallowing them. I'd learned that trust wasn't about never feeling scared, it was about choosing to believe anyway.